Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Glenn Gould Foundation's Promise of Music Forum and our session on Disrupting the Stage, Indigenous Artists on Language, Education, and Sovereign Landscapes. I'll just provide a brief introduction about the foundation and then we'll get started. As you may have heard, Glenn Gould was a famous pianist, but you might not necessarily know about the foundation and what we do. So I'll just give you a little bit of background. Glenn Gould used his talent and celebrity to reach people beyond the confines of what was traditionally accepted for an artist of his time. A revolutionary, he bridged the human divide of the East-West Cold War barrier through his performances in the USSR. In the studio, he transformed the way that music was recorded and explored the use of new technologies to reach a larger audience with a message larger than music itself. Finally, he set the example of the power of music to impact lives. The Glenn Gould Foundation exists to extend Canadian and international awareness of Gould's spirit and legacy by celebrating innovation and excellence, promoting creativity, encouraging cultural diplomacy, and introducing programs that demonstrate the power of music and the arts to transform lives. We are so thrilled that you're joining us here this week for all of the sessions as part of the Promise of Music. It's the first ever World Congress on the social impact of music, and we hope that there are many more. So on behalf of the foundation, thank you for spending this next session with us. We're really excited about it. I would love to introduce our moderator for this session, Rosary Spence, who will kick us off, as well as our distinguished panelists. Thank you so much.
Wachek miswe, bisa manapi iskweo na dishnakason, bihta begoch no shin maskwana dotem. Mashkego dekeni nagagishan tagoyan. Ego mag megwachanoshkagishkak metnenendene pianota, chibeche mianota chiwichi huakoho, nenoakai pachekota. Greetings, friends and relatives. My friend Andrew and my other friend here, Leah, and my friend Nicole and my friend David. We're going to spend some time with you and share a little bit about our adventures and journeys into this beautiful world of music. Naskamatanaw, thank you very much for being here with us on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I know it's a PA day for some TDSB children, including my daughter. So welcome. So I would like to just start off in a very formal, non-formal, traditional way and give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves to you. And we'll start with David. Miigwech.
Nukatsek. Good afternoon. David Sekwa. My name is David Sekwa. Thank you for inviting me. I was just telling someone that this week was my longest stay ever in Toronto. Next time I'm hoping to see a hockey game. What's my favorite team? Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, it was good to experience the power of young people this week. I hear so much and I've seen so much on TV, all these from far away over the ocean. This past week, I was watching these poor young people, kids from other countries in person. Every night I was moved by presentation of young people from all over, from other countries. And also, I'm very happy to be spending this afternoon to share a bit about my own background. I'm a retired teacher, but I've been working with young people from elementary to college, the age level, on two main things, Inuit drumming and drum dancing, drum making, and also sharing Inuit social history, what what took place between now and maybe 1930s and 40s, sort of timeline of changes that hit all of the Inuit in Eastern Arctic or in all of Inuit lands. So after I moved to Ottawa in 2006 with two-year commitment to work at the college, then I stayed on until 2012 and retired from all the day jobs, or from all the classrooms, summer of 2012. But two things never leave me, which is drum making, drum dancing, and also sharing Inuit history to anyone. So I think we'll stop at that, and I could carry on. I'd like to add, I don't mind sharing my age. I'm between 73 and 100. Just before we moved to west coast of Hudson Bay in 1950s, we were living in Ananda Lake. Pretty traditional Inuit community or Inuit camp, away from the world, away from the white people, the other Inuit. We all thought there were only few of us in the world at the time. When I turned about 5, my parents really encouraged me, almost forcing me to come up with two things. Come up with bihik, come up with a song. Here I was 5 years old. That was my age group, my generation. Finally, I come up with a song at age 5. Not to shut up my parents, but it was something we have to do, something I have to do. And other one was to come up with Dongok, helping spirit. All along with my group and a few other groups have that Dongok. They encouraged me to come up with the Dongok, with the helping spirit. Pick a name. Another one, I'll think, holler, and my feet. I can't. I finally come up with the name. My parents said that Dongok will be with you all your life. So I finally come up with the name Inugagut Nyaluk, become my helping spirit. Sometimes I kiddingly tell my friend it's still here in my pocket. So these are the two things that I remember the most growing up in Ananda Lake just before being moved to west coast of Hudson Bay in the late 50s. That the sad part I realized later, that my generation and generation before me were also at the beginning of the change that will change us in our little group forever, and also miss out what were the things that men and women had to learn. One of them is composing a song. My age group, my brother's age group, generation before me, didn't capture that because we were already in a big change, moving from traditional to west coast of Hudson Bay, garments to civilized world. So before we moved there, I'm sure most of you hear of Farley Mowat, the author and whatnot. He came briefly before we moved down and wrote 2 books. As soon as he went down south, Between Disparate People was one of the books, and People of the Deer. Those 2 books introduced us to Canada, these primitive Eskimos. In 1956, Live magazine from New York went up to Anada Lake area to feature us. And they were calling it Stone Age Eskimos. And I still have that copy today. And after we moved to Garman-Pick, Newfoundland, which goes of Hudson Bay, which sits Whale Cove. That's where government of the day want us to move. Pretty much we were experimental materials for them. So that's when I realized I have to drum dance according to our traditions. Age 5, 6, 7, you start performing with adults, occasionally with women and children. Then I realized I start performing in public as a 7, 8 years old with the help of my mother. And then I realized I have a personal song that I will explain a bit more later. And I think I will stop that for a minute and carry on a bit later. Thank you.
Oh, miigwech, David. Appreciate your beautiful story sharing with us about your beginnings. Wow, incredible. We'll move along over here to Nicole. Miigwech.
Tanche, Nicole Dishnakoshan. My name is Nicole Schutz. I'm from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. I am Métis, and Prince Albert, Saskatchewan is located less than 100 kilometers from Patoche, Saskatchewan, where the Northwest Resistance with Louis Riel, Gabriel Dumont was fought. And I now live in Edmonton. I'm a music educator by heart. I will always be a music educator. The past 24 years, I've been teaching in Edmonton Public Schools. And this year, I have just shifted into a consulting position as a First Nation Métis and Inuit consultant. We are a small team of 2, and I'm hoping that I can bring the work I've been doing on indigenizing music education within my district, but that has been my fun work. That's what my husband calls fun, is working in the evenings. So my fun work is in the evenings. But so I've been partnering with different Indigenous educators, looking for more Indigenous music educators in school systems, and just trying to create learning environments for students that are community collaborations and helping teachers find ways to indigenize their curriculum across Canada.
Thank you, Nicole. Very important work. Miigwech. And we'll move on over to Nia. Miigwech.
My name is Nai Itzak, and I'm from Iqaluit. I co-lead the Ima After School Music Program for Inuit students, and I don't want to say anymore.
Apologies for saying your name incorrectly. It's Nai. Nai, right? Not Nia. Nai. So sorry. Nai, miigwech. And Andrew.
Tansi, Ani, bonjour. My name is Andrew Balfour. I'm a composer and singer and conductor. I'm born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Actually, a couple of maybe 20 meters from Nestawewa, which is the Forks, as we call it, where the river, Red River meets the Assiniboine. But my blood comes from Fisher River Cree First Nation. I was taken away when I was 6 months old from my blood mother, and my language, my medicines, my songs, my culture went with that. And that was a policy of the government at the time, 1967. I'm 58 years old. I'm not afraid to say my age, but I do come from a legacy where I was colonized at 6 months old. And we'll talk about this more in more detail as we talk about decolonizing. But I wouldn't be here without learning the colonized language. I've been all over the world. I've been to Europe, I've been to Mexico, I've been to LA, New York, because I learned the codes when I was a young little baby. I learned how to read music. And that's colonizing itself. You know, Rosemary's a songkeeper, and she sings incredible songs. And she also grew up in a choral background as well. But we learned something that was actually valuable, even though it was colonized. So I'm here because I'm colonized, and I'm in this panel. I just actually was able to conduct on Wednesday the Peruvian Youth Choir. I could never have imagined that when I was a little boy, as David was talking about. I often go back sometimes in time and talk to little Andrew when I was like a kid, when I was confused and torn away from my mother. Can you actually even just in terms of taking a baby from your mother's heartbeat, you've just left the spirit world. What you need most at that time is your mother. But to take away a little baby, and then, I mean, I was lucky. I grew up in a wonderful household and learned a lot of music, but they didn't have that capacity to teach me my language and songs. So we're here to talk about that legacy, which we are all a part of. And the last thing I'll have to say in my introduction, people talk about reconciliation and this process we're going through right now as a crossroads. No, we're at a precipice. We all depend on reconciliation, all of us. If we're not Indigenous, we depend it even more, because we can't function as a country without total reconciliation. And we are survivors. All of us here right now, we survived. And our ancestors survived. And we wouldn't be here without their survival instincts. So that's what we're talking about this afternoon. Thank you, Miigwech.
Miigwech. Wow, very powerful introductions from everybody. And I also want to introduce myself and honor my ancestors too. You know, I come from a very small remote community called Fort Albany First Nation, which is on the western shores of James Bay. But my ancestors come from the Hudson Bay and all the way across to northern Saskatchewan. That's where my bloodline comes from. An interesting fun fact, I did my DNA recently. Well, not that recent, maybe 7 years ago. And on ancestry.ca, you get this beautiful map of your connections, your DNA connections from all around the world. I literally have thousands of cousins all across Canada, United States. I'm 97% Indigenous to North America. And there's a small, tiny percentage of me, 1%, I think, from Scotland, which is common for our people. 1% from the Ukraine, very common for our people. But one little percent that's less common, Sardinia. Interesting, right? So with that information, that itself proves that the earliest relationships that we had 500 plus years ago, that we made allyship and friendships with, were that of the Ukraine people, Ukrainian, Scottish, and I guess some people from Sardinia. But I wanted to share that little tidbit of information. But also, you know, musically, much like Andrew and much like our friends here, traditionally, I grew up singing with my grandmother. Her name's Fabiola. And I grew up singing in church. That was my first experiences of music. I also am a survivor of a child welfare system and was apprehended time and time again from the ages of 3 till I was 15, and grew up in foster care in different homes and group homes and on the streets, et cetera, et cetera. But my earliest memories is singing in churches. But that's part of that colonization, the assimilation of our people. But they couldn't take away our spirit. There's something very beautiful with vocalizing and singing that allows our spirits to project something far deeper and ancestral, right? So I was singing away around the same age, very, very young, 4 or 5 years old, church hymns with my gohom. And she would be so encouraged. You sound so beautiful, granddaughter. Sing again. And then I became this entertainer for Gochum's church groups. Come sing a song, sing another hymn. You know, so I can relate to our beautiful panelists here in that discussion, and where, you know, music has come from traditionally and from a lens that's not so traditional and a little more colonized. Me, Gwetch, everybody. Okay, enough of me. We'll go back to the panel here. Elder David, I want to ask you, you have had a remarkable career as an educator, from teacher to principal to cultural leader. You've also played a key role in developing Inuktitut teaching materials, and have had focused much of your career integrating Inuit culture within school curricula. What projects have you found most rewarding?
I think many, but few stand out. Especially relates to drum dancing and drum making. I think going back to 1978, when I graduated from Fort Smith Teaching Education, Northwest Territories. We were still under Northwest Territories, then moved back to Akviat from Eskimo Point to start kindergarten. And right from there, all of a sudden, I become a teacher. Now I am in charge of the class, like this many people. That was pretty scary. And as soon as I become a teacher, I look back at my own school days under Federal Day School in Whale Cove and Rankin. All the things that were not allowed in my classroom. All the things to avoid during recess, before school, and after school until you leave for home. If you get caught, then you pay big price, like strap at the back or on top of your head or your hands, or stay after school, or staying at recess, or riding sometimes 200 times in line. I will not smoke at recess. I will not fight, and so on, those kind of things. I will not talk Eskimo in my classroom. I will not talk about my culture in the school. These were flashing on, on my head in 78. That it took me almost 30 years or more to tackle all the things that I want to do as a teacher, to bring back that language into the classroom. I can talk freely, kids can talk freely in their own language at recess or before and after. Those things never goes away, and I told myself I should just focus my whole career on Inuit language and culture, following my guidelines, but focus on those. And other scary part was dealing with parents. Even in Inuit communities back then, even today, there's always critical people, even among your own people. I was scared of that. Especially, I'm the low of the low from the Inuit group, the inland people. All the Inuit see as lowest of the low in Inuit society. I was scared of that. And I know people will start raising the topic. But that didn't stop me. And I carry on focusing on Inuit culture and language. That I'm going to use one example when I moved to Iqaluit in 1989 to work at a college. Then I went to college, then Inuksuk High School, then took a year off to get my B.Ed from McGill and returned to Inuksuk High School, then to Jomi School, elementary school, teaching grade 3 and 4 in Inuktitut. I would start off a drum in the middle. Then there were no takers. Week 1, week 2, month. And finally, a little boy, let's just call him Johnny. He raised his hand and said, I'll drum dance. So he drum danced, and everyone raised their hand. Everyone wants to drum dance right away. That gave me an idea. I should really focus on drumming. The year went by, and this little boy, little Johnny, sometimes he's a piece of work too. Then I would visit. He was raised by his grandma. I would visit his grandma, and grandma know why I am coming in and invited. Didn't say anything, just ignore me. So I went back. Weeks later, I'm there again at her house, and asked me, what did he do this time? She knows what he do this time. Then I start chatting with her, just on friendly terms, not getting too heavy. Then I leave again. Then I visit her 3rd and 4th and 5th. Then she start to get to know me. I start to get to know her. She said, David, you drum dance. Yes. Yeah, Johnny, drum dance too. Sometimes I can sing for you when you drum dance. And that was building up between grandma and me. Then when I become principal of Jomi School, Johnny was still coming into my office. Then sometimes a part of a drum dance club. Then that really gave me an idea to push drum dancing or drumming with the kids, starting with the kids. And I wasn't sure how the community or the parents or Joma school would accept drumming, because it's very new in Baffin in general. Then from there, I started the drum club from one boy. It just multiplied in the class and the next class, and it Joma school have a drum club. And after we moved to Iqaluit, then shall I carry on drum dance? I asked the parents, because they really want to drum dance. They all gave me thumb up. I said, okay, we will meet every Wednesday, 1 hour a week to drum dance, just talk about drumming. We don't even have drums yet. A year later, I told my class of 15 to 18, between September and June, all of you will make a drum. Sometimes I have a big mouth. I wasn't sure if all of them will make drums, but it was a goal. Most finished their drums by June. From there, drum club drumming was born at Juma School. So I'm going to stop there for a minute and carry on a bit later. Thank you.
Migach, wow. For Nicole, from Nitota to Wetaskiwin to Kanata, you've co-built and been an advisor along with Cree Dene educator Cheryl Siwapagam on those resources. What would be your advice to choral directors, composers, and music educators in this room who are interested in working collaboratively and respectfully with Indigenous artists to engage their choirs and singers and provide collaborative compositions and resources? What key elements should they strive to ensure that this is done in a good way?
That's a long question. That's a good question. Cheryl Suupegaham has been my mentor and friend, and I'm very thankful for our relationship. And we have kind of come through a journey together and separate, but what we have started with was resource building for classrooms. Because teachers need a little way in on how to work with the music. And when you're Western trained, when you're a classically trained music reader, sometimes it's hard to know where do you start. And so Cheryl started writing little songs many years ago for classrooms, that anybody who would want to use these in their classrooms, it was available. And so I came alongside her to create a resource for the National Arts Centre of Canada. And it's a free resource that's on the website. That's what we want to make sure that everything that is related to music education, we can make these resources widely available. And so Cheryl and I, who is a wonderful composer, it's been amazing to watch Cheryl grow in her music writing. We went to university together, and we learned a lot about research methods and started to rethink our practice in education, but in the broader context. And so instead of just relying on the ready-made materials and beautiful compositions, we shifted into engaging community members and their music and their voice, and trying to find ways to collaborate and work on projects together with community, who are often excluded from the, the, the realm of academia or song creation as composers. And so I guess my advice to music educators or composers, I'm not going to speak for composers, that can be Andrew, who also is such a wonderful composer. It's listening to community and working alongside community, instead of just kind of the kind of call them like packages. So the grab and go package is not as rich as working with somebody who is grounded in their songs. I've had some incredible opportunities working with my latest project, and it's probably the most impactful project that I will do in my career, was learning and singing the grandmother song with Leo McGilvery, who is a song keeper. And I heard that song, and it's a song that isn't a sacred song, meaning that it's only for ceremony, but it's often sung in ceremony. And I've learned from working with Leo and Priscilla that it's because it's a prayer song, and spirit lives within the song, which you can't get from a piece of paper. And so I was able to work with, I think I had 80 grade 5 and 6 students that I created a choir with. And we learned this song, but not from me. We learned this song working with Leo and him coming into the classroom to share the stories that inspired the song and where the song came from. We performed this song for a Truth and Reconciliation event that is live streamed with Edmonton Public Schools. It's a live event. It's on YouTube. What was so impactful for that day was to have children from many different backgrounds singing in the Cree language on a stage with a knowledge keeper, being live streamed across the school district. And Leo had said, something's going to happen. He kept saying that something is going to happen. This song is a healing song. Something is going to happen. And as the conductor of a choir, sometimes you get caught up in like, are they smiling? Are they like doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they feeling comfortable with the songs? And then I had to stop because I'm like, no, something's happening here. And what we had heard from that experience was, it went viral, which was the most important thing to my 5th and 6th graders because they went viral on YouTube. But Leo was getting phone calls, and he said, no, like, my phone has lit up. It has been the most healing thing for our elders and survivors of residential schools, because they never had imagined that they would be hearing their language in a school setting in front of everybody. And he was getting calls about that was 10 years of therapy, that performance. And those were my babies. Like, I still will think of those as my babies up there singing. And just the power of working with community and learning the songs connected in a way that is just what you can't get on a piece of paper. I heard a few years ago a Stephen Point at a conference that talked about reconciliation is the song we sing together. And that has stayed with me. And the next year, my students sang. I'm like, okay, there we go, right there. It's the music together that's going to be really impactful, I think, for our country and our healing as a collective from colonizing.
Miigwech for that. It's Miigwech. So very powerful, and makes me think about when I sing, and because I'm a singer as well, and when I'm performing, oftentimes people will come to me at the end and say, wow, I got goosebumps, or I cried, or it really moved me. Even though the songs that I sing, there's no language in it. It's all vocables, it's sound, it's a spiritual experience. So it moves people, right? So there's that deep spiritual connection that lives within music. And music is a universal language, universal experience all around the world. I've traveled all the way from, I don't know, where did I went to Jerusalem. I sang and prayed out there. And it was the same feeling. People coming up, that moved me. I don't know what you said, but it moved me. I felt it. You know, so it's a global phenomenon, really. Very beautiful. You much for sharing. And I'll move on over to our friend Nai. I have a couple of really good questions here. But I would like to know, as a music educator, what inspires you to do the work that you do? What's your inspiration?
Well, when I teach the kids, they like light up and they're like, wow, I did that. And then I'm like, cool, you did it. I think I have more fun teaching than them actually learning because you can see their confidence grow and I don't know.
I 100% understand what you're saying. I work a lot in schools, and I also work a lot with children. And there's something about the way their faces light up when you're teaching them a song and they're getting it and they're really into it. Like they're screaming and singing at the top of their lungs. Like it's a very beautiful feeling. So I understand how that would also inspire you as a musical educator. So then I guess when you're teaching songs and you're inspiring children, is there a part of you that feels like you're honoring your ancestors as well by teaching songs this way?
I don't teach songs. At the beginning, I forgot to say that I teach fiddle and button accordion.
Ah.
Yeah. But I think we teach, like I teach square dance music, so I think Inuit would be proud because everyone like it's a celebration thing that they Inuit do. So yeah.
Miigwech, Miigwech, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Wow. So Andrew, similar to the question that I asked Nicole, I think it would be wise to also include a composer's perspective on what would be your advice to composers, music educators alike, who would be interested in working collaboratively, respectfully with Indigenous musicians, singers, songkeepers. You know, what elements would you suggest for work to be done in a good way?
It's- I guess that's kind of my MO, my modus operandus, is collaboration. Because the fact that I call myself a composer, this is kind of a weird thing to do because basically I'm a data entry guy. I write down notes and then somebody picks them up later on and then they sing it or play it. But it's a kind of bizarre way to make a living. Often I met a guy the other day, actually in downtown Toronto. I said, like, I'm a composer. He's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, I count clouds for a living. It's like, you know, it's like you make it so abstract. Like, really, when you think about it, then he said, you make money that way? Like, yeah, I make money writing down notes, but more importantly, I'm trying to tell stories. And I've dropped into this career that actually let me explore my language, which is bizarre. I don't speak fluent Cree, but there's two words that are the most important words for me. Ispichiwin is the Cree word for journey, and Tapwe is the Cree word for truth. Those are two words that are very important to me. And as a composer, I can set them to many notes or many chords or many structures. And I guess I've discovered a little bit of myself through composing. So my suggestion for composers is to, like Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. Be true to yourself. Be true to your stories. All of us have many, many tragic stories in our ancestors' history, our own history. There's nothing wrong with crying through choral music, or even listening to something that's like makes you powerful, but also there's nothing wrong with celebrating. There's actually a wonderful, my friend Corey Campbell, who's a songkeeper from Manitoba, and he's from Sagin First Nation, and he told me the greatest teaching I've ever heard, and it's in Ojibwe. It's Ambe Ishnabeg, Bindigeg Ishnabeg, Mino Bino Bendiziwin, Ambeg Ishnabeg. And that's just like, come in, all ye two-legged creatures. There is good life here. Come in. And he said, Ashnabegs are all of us. There are no languages. There are no borders. There are no national anthems. There are no religions. We are all Ishnabegs. We are two-legged creatures. That's where we start. We come from the spirit world. Then somehow we become Muslims or Jewish or Canadians or Americans or whatever. Somehow we become part of a tribe. But when actually the most important thing, we're Ishnabegs. And I've learned that through music, through a traditional song that a songkeeper that is very dear to me now told me that. And it's because I did, he doesn't read music like I do, or like, he does, but he knows probably 600 songs in his head. And actually, ironically, probably like you too, because if you have perfect pitch, I'm pretty sure when you sing a song, you sing that song in the same key all the time. So it's like that's a beautiful trait as well, in terms of like song, composing. It's all just like making, like you teach, we all teach, but we also learn. Like I said, I'm 58 years old. I would never say that I know the ocean of music. No sailor would say that I know every minuscule of the ocean. It's impossible. Music changes all the time. And the last thing I would have to say about music is, most importantly, there's a first time for every single piece of music. Beethoven 5, Vivaldi, any piece of music you can think of, there was a first time for that. Your songs that you've learned, my songs that I've learned, there was a first time. So think of that power, whether it's 500 or years ago, or somebody right now is composing a song. I bet you if we leave this place right now, we're going to be hearing music or people humming. That's the power of music, and that's the power of storytelling.
Miigwech, thank you so much for that. I've had the honor of working with Andrew on a few other projects, and I will say there's something really powerful about, and also I was at the show on Wednesday, there's something really powerful about having our songs and languages sung in a choir. And I think as survivors of residential school and survivors of colonization and churches, et cetera, we often associate, for myself, I'll speak for myself, I associate choirs with churches. Okay, and I associate that with, singing praise of God and hymn, et cetera. So when I'm witnessing a choir sing in Cree and sing about teachings and singing Gishjimigwech Geshem Nado, meaning thank you, Great Spirit, in Cree, that's so moving. That's the healing work, right? That's the decolonizing. That is very beautiful as a survivor this day and age in 2025 to bear witness to that is remarkable. Miigwech. So we'll come on over here to David. And I wanted to ask you, so looking ahead in the future, what changes would you like to see in terms of music education in Nunavut or even across Canada?
Just before I get into that, I was going to mention, if you look at history 1940s is not long ago, or 1950s is not long ago. Looking at drum dancing and Inuit songs within the family. After federal government moved us to west coast of Hudson Bay, before we moved, there was my mom, dad, my brother Silas, my sister Kukik, and me. When we landed to our Newfoundland, we were still together. But you have to understand how powerful relocations are. They say they volunteer to move. That is nonsense. They use force. When they move us from Anadale to west coast of Hudson Bay, we have a quick pit stop at Eskimo Point. Now, Akviet. During these terrible relocations, many people died. Some by starvation, cold exposure, one illness, and a couple by murder. When we moved to the coast, after officers, after they investigate, it was time to mix with other Inuit of Akviet, Padlak Mute, Tagal Mute. To celebrate, there was a big drum dance. And I remember the night very well. Midway through the drum dance, my father, Mickey, was drum dancing. And you know I'm not very tall. I was taller than my father. He was drum dancing. And out of nowhere, there was a big commotion at the entrance. It was a policeman. And right to my father, grab him, arm lock him, and push him towards women who were singing a circle. And he was hurt. And also he picked up the drum and break it in half. But that didn't stop us. That didn't stop him from drum dancing. And from there, speeding my timeline. Now I'm a teacher, family of 5, and also uncle who really encouraged me to pick up the drum, Casimir Nutakasungnik, my late uncle. Now my family, they would be standing around. My father, my mother, my brother Silas, my sister Cookie, and my uncle Casimir. Now, use an example. If they are on the tundra with me and they start to walk away together, leaving me behind, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller, they're no more on a distance. Sometimes that feeling is very much inside me. But when I think back how rich they were in a song and dance, what they left me, then I always feel it's my duty to pass it on to anyone near me, anyone who wants to learn from me. One example is I was in Happy Valley Goose Bay, maybe 25 years ago, 4 years ago, I was invited back. Some young people met me at the airport. I said, David, do you remember us? I said, no, I don't remember. Yeah, 17 years ago. They said, 17 years ago, we were small kids. You were teaching us how to drum dance. Yeah, now I remember. They said, this time we're going to perform for you. Sit back, and they give me live performance. Oh, that is good. And also, how and why, I think I mentioned earlier at the beginning that I consider myself just a basic drummer, not a fancy, not expert, but I know enough to pass it on. And also, I always have one unwritten rule with my drumming class that if you learn the basic drum dancing, then you should teach someone at home, your brother, sister, mom, or dad. Often they do that. And as a teacher, when I started in 78, I just want to go full speed ahead, go fast, do all these things. But I realize it will take forever to start your plan. And I mean, it takes time to get into practice. So all my 30 years plus, I want to share what I was given to be my mother, my father, and my late uncle. My mother gave me to be in control. My father passed me the drumming, drum dancing. My uncle teach me how to perform. And my brother left me with humor. He was full of humor, which I do often on every talk. Otherwise, I go all over. And I think I said earlier, teaching saved my life. I don't know where I would be today if I was just, I don't know what to call it, but teach saved my life. And getting back to a helmut, in our little society, I said I'm between 73 and 100 years old. Before we moved to the civilized world, in that little society, our system was we have the shaman at the top, then we have the leader, then you have your mom and dad. That's how our system. When the move by force was upon us, I'm sure government know if something will snap, if they come to, and something snapped, starvation took place. That powerful shaman that was so at the top not long ago, in the first month of relocation, he was the very first one to starve or die. I remember the day very well. Later on, I learned from my own ancestors, also from the Yalmute. They say good shamans sometimes give their own life so other people can survive. Maybe he did starve. I always question, maybe he gave up so we can survive, and here I am today.
Miigwech, for sharing that. That's so beautiful. It's incredible. You know, it reminds me of there's a sense of urgency with Indigenous folks, I would say, to share as much as we can while we're alive. You know, our friend talks about being between 73 and 100. And, you know, in a lifespan, our elders are leaving very quickly. The ones that have the original teachings are leaving. So it's up to us to sit with our elders and learn as much as we can while we have them. I was fortunate enough that I had my grandparents from a very, very, very young age and be able to learn how to speak Cree, be able to learn how to harvest and trap off the land and know the traditional teachings, et cetera, et cetera. We were also very heavily influenced by the Catholic Church. But my point is, my grandparents passed away about, I would say 18 years ago now. But the thing is, the time that I spent with them are the stuff that I teach now. They passed it down. So every time I'm in a classroom, I'm sitting and working with children, and I'm sitting working with families. Their teachings are still living through me. And I'm passing that on to another generation. And I always tell them, this came from my Gochum Fabiola. So you're learning a very ancient, because who was her teacher? Her parents, her mother, and so on and so forth. So that's how we continue on those legacies of our teachers and our advisors and our elders, is just to keep teaching and sharing as much as we can, because there is a sense of urgency with each passing knowledge carrier, keeper, and elder. It's gone. What they know and what they have goes with them, right? So, and like you said, you know, in hierarchy, especially in traditional settings, long before colonization, the helpers and the healers and the old women, the gochums, were at the top of our family systems. Because the gochum, you know, the Cree word for gochum is actually means the one who can keep count, uchama, okay? But when the settlers arrived, they said, who's your leader? Who's your chief? And they said, uchama, hanana. It's our grandmothers. So the colonizers adopted that word, ochamau, and turned it into chief. But it actually means our matriarchal leaders, our healers, our helpers, our women that bring life into the world, right? The medicine women. So anyways, I'm carrying on and on. I'm also a teacher. Miigwech. So, Nicole, there's quite a few. I'm sure you saw the list of the questions, but I wanted you to talk a little bit more about your experiences as an Indigenous educator in an education system, and what inspires you to continue to do that work. Very, very important work of collaborations and bringing Indigenous music into a Western setting.
Gosh, we should go for tea after, because like this conversation it's such a good conversation, and I think there's kind of, it's twofold a little bit. For me, you know, I don't teach right now, but I taught in a school that didn't have very many Indigenous students in it, and I was still teaching Indigenous music because we have those calls to action of truth and reconciliation. We also have a standard in Alberta, the teaching quality standards, that we must embed Indigenous knowledge into all of our teachings. And I guess what inspires me is I think children are shocked to hear about residential schools, and that was, you know, working with this starting in 2014-15, right after the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations came out, 94 calls to action. And so it didn't matter whether I had 2 Indigenous students or 15 or 50 or 100. The music is of Canada. It's the music I'm teaching is Treaty 6 music. And I want my students to know the music that comes from here. I know I'm not on Treaty 6, but here from Canada. My other inspiration would also be this urgency that you're talking about, the reclamation of our language. My grandfather was born in Batoche in 1911, so his family kind of stayed in the area after the resistance. His grandfather was one of the 25 arrested with Riel. And so after the resistance, there was we kind of talk about the proud Métis, the shamed Métis, the ones that changed their identity to hide. My grandfather lived on the land he provided for his family on the land he spoke French Michif. But the way they talk about that time period, or they erase that time period, was very interesting. They never called it Michif, it was Prairie French. And I'm working with Michif speakers right now. There's 1,300 Michif speakers left in Canada. And so I'm working on a project because we know that if we don't speak to the old people, if we don't include them into the schools, into the music making, that's going to go away. And the language and the land and the music is all tied together. And so I guess it's honoring that side. And my dad, through the work that I've been able to do, he can now say that he's Métis without kind of waiting to see what kind of racist comments he's going to get, because I know that I'm not an Indigenous appearing person, but my grandfather was, and my dad tried to protect him from racism, because living in a place that's not far from the resistance and in Saskatchewan in general, racism in where they were from was very, very high after, the resistance into now and to the stories of today. And so I want to honor the music beyond the fiddle music, which is amazing. I wish you lived closer, because I would ask you to be my teacher. But I think it's looking at the music in the families and bringing it forward, and living in Edmonton, which is I think we have the highest in Métis population, urban Métis population in Canada, and trying to find ways to capture the music in schools, because it's not always happening in community and in homes because of that erasure of language. And so I'm trying to kind of bridge the gap and bring alongside community and families so that the tradition can live, the language can live, and that everybody can benefit, because our ways of being, our ways of knowing, our ways of living is not exclusive to who we are. We just know what's here, and we've always had this knowledge, and I think it's up to us as Indigenous people to share it with everybody. And so that's kind of my goal. And I'm excited about this new role, because I think I can shift it maybe at a bigger context. And so, yeah, as many people as I can reach has kind of been my goal with the educations.
Miigwech, thank you. So we're wrapping up now. And before we wrap up, I wanted to invite Elder David to share a piece of music that you've been saving for us.
When my late father was making drums, I would watch him without any tools. He would finish a small drum. And I have one today that he made for my first daughter, Amanda. After we moved to Iqaluit in 89, the whole Iqaluit thing at the time that Ini Inuk come from Kivalliq region, especially from Akviat or Eskimo Point, must have a drum, must know a song, must know how to perform. I don't have that at the time. And going back to my late father and dancing to his song, and I remember he was telling me his song. He said, it was early in the morning, and it was just my family, my wife, my mother, Kaho, Silas, me, and my sister, Kukik. Some were still sleeping. I look out the weather, what would be like for today. And he decided to go out for a walk. I was walking for half a day, empty pack sack and little gun, which were very light in the first hour. After looking around for a caribou or rabbit or ptarmigan, empty pack sack become heavy. I'm getting tired. On the horizon, there's an esker. I was getting close to that esker on the horizon. I could see a black spot. As I get closer and closer, and it started to move, then he would bend down, get close enough. Sure, and it was the caribou. He got the caribou and bring it back to us. That song, or Bihik, is so old. He was following all the unwritten rules for composing a song for men. And there's also unwritten rules for women who want to compose songs. And that story become his song. And I like to share that song with you. And here is 2007, my elder Mary Anautelik record the song. Here is the song she recorded for me in 2007. This is so traditional. And just to give you an idea how old that song might be, my late father was born in 1918. In those days, you have to compose a song within 20 years of your life. It's probably that old. So here is my father's song.
That's so moving, so beautiful. I guess we're going to finish off our discussion here, but I'd like to close it off in a traditional way and give everybody an opportunity here on our panel to share some final thoughts. Maybe there's something that they wanted to share with you that we didn't touch on yet, and offer our words of gratitude. Miigwech.
Thank you, Matna. I always go back to the teachings of my mother that that I should always share something I have. It could be a fish, caribou, a song, a drum, that sort of stuff that never leaves me. I still practice that I would give some food before I eat myself. I still believe in that. And you mentioned how what I would like to see, what ahead for Inuit world or Inuit culture. When I become a teacher, I was just rushing and rushing, hoping that my ideas will come into practice in few years. That was wishful thinking. But I go ahead and do lots of it in my classroom where I don't have to ask anyone. So I did a lot of that. And I also spent many years on the road being a teacher because government need us. They need us to put together language arts curriculum for elementary, middle school, and high school. A lot of them were spent on the road developing, helping my government in my early years. Today, it's coming, but slow. Matna, miigwech.
I'm very grateful to be on this panel with these wonderful musicians and people and culture bearers. And this is a conversation that, like I said, I love just talking about the similarities within our nations and also the differences. And I guess there's a couple of things that, I always come back to. There are two, a professor that I worked with who talks about the inheritance of colonialism. And we inherited colonialism. We didn't start it, but by not working towards, and he wouldn't say decolonize, he's unlearning colonialism is what this professor liked to use. If we do not work towards unlearning colonialism, then we perpetuate it. And when we feel fear and not sure where to start, there's community members and people who are willing to come alongside you to help you with your call to action, your reconciliation. And it's through storytelling, and it's through Tapwe, the truth, and it's through these conversations across Canada that I think is going to be the change. And there's so much potential in this collective music making together that I just, we can feel it. And I think you were talking about like there's the precipice, something is happening. And we can all feel it. I think as Indigenous people, we can feel what's about to happen. And I can't wait to see the result. So that's what I would like to do.
A lot of Indigenous languages are being lost, and I think teachers of any teachings should invite community members who know the language and can teach the children. I mean, the children may not appreciate it then as they're being taught, but they will when they grow up. And so hire those Indigenous people who know the language.
It's an honor to be here, and thank you for this platform, and Rosary for leading us, and for you, all of you, Anishinaabeks here. I guess the last thing I have to say is, like, in terms of like the most important thing to realize is reconciliation is not a destination; it is an ongoing journey, and chances are the youngest one in this room, your great-great-grandchildren might see true reconciliation, because we know. I know personally, like I guess I'm a composer. I know younger Indigenous storytellers, musicians, composers that know how to write for symphony and opera and choirs. I know it. It's coming up. So you're going to see their symphonies and ballets and operas and all the colonial ideas that we give ourselves for music. And you're going to see their stories. And I'm so proud of that, because it's the teachers that started that. And you know, like we just have to understand in terms of this, like the idea of the journey. This is Pichiwin is all of our responsibilities, and let us not forget the most important things. Most of my Indigenous brothers and sisters do not have clean drinking water in their communities. Most of my brothers and sisters go missing on a daily basis. Where is the police? Where's our justice? Where's our arts? Where are our politicians? Where are they talking about? So we talk about hope. But until I know where my brothers and sisters go on a daily basis when they go missing and they're suddenly on a poster, that's unacceptable in a first world country. I believe in justice and peace and love. So we can do this collectively. As I always say, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Let's do it the easy way, and let's do it through music. But Chimigwits, thank you very much.